Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Can we all hear me?
We can hear you, Agnes. Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. My name is Agnes. I'm sorry I had to kind of join in late. I had church activities and I just had to like hop in when I was like on my way, but now I'm home and well positioned and well seated to hear and to speak and also listen to everything that we have to say. And first of all, I want to say thank you so much to Mary and the committee, the team that has put this together. Thank you so much to Queen Mother for the uh, very insightful contribution, especially laying emphasis on agriculture and the need for us to consume what we're actually producing. And that's kind of it's there is a very close intersection between her conversation or that comment and climate change. So basically, I am Agnes Iwaye. I'm a policy analyst, but my focus is on climate change. I've done research on climate change and conflict, and also understanding how limited resources or resource scarcity actually causes conflict majorly in Africa. Well, my focus was on Chad, and that's still going to be part of our conversation today. So I would have said, oh, I should have created a slide, but I thought this was going to be more conversational, as we were supposed to have like a moderator that would just put it together, but it's just going to be more of an interactive session. So we can just rub minds. And first of all, I would also want us to know that this conversation is still having a very close link with the Beijing Declaration, which is going to be 30 years, I suppose, this next year. So we are my focus is going to be on the impact of climate change and how we can align it to the female gender. However, we are all impacted. Climate change respects no gender. So we are all in this together. And another thing I would love us to emphasize, I know this group or this conversation is not being done by just majorly Africans, but I know that we are the ones that have the population, like the most population in this meeting. And because Africa is also that strategic continent that has many of that kind of takes the pitfall of the impact of climate change. So that's why my focus is also going to be on Africa and basically the Sahel region, because they are the one that is actually bad hit. I want us, before we start talking about the detrimental part and what is not working, what is really working in Africa. We all know that Africa is a very great continent, an amazing one that is beautiful at that. I'm Nigerian and I got into the United States 3 years ago. And I must say that while United States is amazing and all that, we cannot overemphasize the beauty and the glory in our continent, Africa, and also in my country, Nigeria. Africa is known to have very beautiful and very relevant natural resources that is being depleted these days due to the impact of climate change. The reason we need to address this is that Africa on its own is actually emitting just less than 4% of greenhouse gases. Meanwhile, we are taking a higher percentage of the impact. What are we going to do about that? What will you and I do about that? The equation is not really equating. There is no balance. This is why we really have to speak out as advocates, as individuals. Africa is the most vulnerable region, despite the fact that we have the natural resources and all that. It is very paradoxical because the impact and the relevance of our natural resources are really not seen per se. They are not seen because we do not we it's the benefits of what the natural resources are supposed to give to us. We are not seeing it due to the current emission of greenhouse gas emission. So taking us back to why what has been the effect of these emissions so far. We've seen effects like deforestation, we've seen desertification, I beg your pardon, we've seen pollution, climate induced disaster, and diverse of them. And one major one that I would like to talk about is this desertification. By the time we keep, or the larger continents keep infusing greenhouse gas emission into the atmosphere, the repercussion is global warming. And from that, we are leading to drought. Drought is affecting our land. And because our lands have been affected, how can we really invest in agriculture? I understand that agriculture is the major thing that we've been doing over the years. Is Africans' major source of livelihood. But how can we really rely on this based on the fact that climate change is affecting this particular region? Not just as regards the certification, because the drought eventually leads to resource scarcity. And I'll give you an instance. For instance, if we know about the Lake Chad Basin has been reducing over the years right now, and currently it has reduced for about 90%. And Lake Chad Basin is surrounded by Chad, Benin Republic, Nigeria, and I think one other country that I can't remember right now. 4 countries surrounding and depending on this particular basin. The fact that this keeps reducing is causing a whole lot of conflict within this region, because the little source of livelihood left, the little resources left in this particular region is what thousands and millions of people are actually competing for. For instance, the fights that keeps breaking out between the herders and the farmers in Chad is still based on this competition for limited resources. The farmers need the water to water their plants, while the herders need the water to also feed their flocks. What does this have to do with the Beijing Conference Declaration? I will tell you why. Do you know that with the impact of climate change, women are actually the mostly hit with this? And let's rub minds together and make this more practical. In most homes, women are considered as the housekeepers, the ones that have to put things together, have to get the water, get the food, get everything, take care of the kids. Everything they need is mostly dependent on water. And I will give you an instance during my research. Do you know that in Chad, when there is something called water for fish, and this is very clear, but some people call it fish for flesh. And I will explain to you. Do you know that because the women cannot, because the sea is depleting, because the sea is drying up, and the women can no longer go deep down into the sea to actually fetch water that they need as resources, that they need for their daily activities. So the men go deep down to fetch water for them, or even fish for them, so that the women can sell at the market. And when they bring the fish out or they get water out for them, they tend to sleep with these women, sleep with these young girls. Those young girls could be you or myself. These young girls could be your family members or someone you know. They sleep with them and then they give them the fish, or they sleep with them and then they give them the water. It's not just in Chad. I worked with someone who is a Mandela Fellow from Sierra Leone. She said the same thing. Water for water. That's sleeping with people just to give them water. That's very absurd. And that's why we see that we have teenage pregnancies. That's when we see the infiltration of diseases. And the bedrock and the root of all this is just due to the impact of climate change. It might seem that Africa is very, we do not have the resources, or it seems, in quotes, that we do not have the power per se to make an influence or to make an impact. We have a voice. No one has actually taken our voices from us. And we have to stand up and speak on those voices. There have been projects that have been ongoing. We've heard about climate financing. Is there accountability for this? We've heard about the green wall that is being built to build trees and reduce desertification, deforestation, and all that. But are these things really in alignment with everyone's needs? And this call today, I believe it's a rejuvenation for you and I to actually stand up and actually engage in actions and not just speaking, like Mary Elia said. Enough of really, I'm not saying we shouldn't attend conferences, But right now, at this point, I think we need actions. We need to do something. And how can we act? Not everyone is going to build the solar panels, but whatever you can do in support of the solar panels, then let's do it. Not everyone might be at the United Nations to say something, but whenever you've seen something, then you have to say something. I think that's a regular word that is being used for safety. We should reduce the proliferation of youth organizations that we have, then come together as one so that we can be a force that would actually influence change. And trust me, at every point and with every position that you hold, you have something that you can actually give towards this growth, towards the development of Africa. I know a couple of product owners who work with Google, who work with Microsoft. They are developing products that would actually aid sustainable development, that will aid people with disabilities, mobility products. I heard of one other person who is a product manager who is currently creating a product that will help females in Africa to be able to monitor their periods. You have something inherently deposited in you that you can actually give. We as Africans, we as individuals, we as youth, we have enough energy. Do you know that Africans, in the whole of African population, the youth, you and I, we make 60% of the population. We have strength. I did a research recently concerning workforce development in the United States, and I realized that the United States population is getting older. But the reverse is the case for us because our population is younger and we are not leveraging on it. This is why we should speak out that youth actually need to be empowered. We have to be very included if we really want a sustainable development. The future is now. We need to invest more in educating the youth. And this is not until we have leaders sitting up there educating the youth. You yourself, you have something to do to the youth around you. We have values to actually share with other people for them to be able to know what is going on. Because some of these people, the reason they are engaged in deforestation or desertification is based on lack of knowledge. Because it's not just climate change that is causing all these human activities as well is also impacting and causing climate change. Overgrazing is causing it. Unprotected farming or unsustainable farming is also causing it. If people are more aware on better ways and better measures to farm, then there would be better way to actually curb climate change. Then let's not forget technological advancements. We do not have to have the Messiah mentality waiting for the developed country to come and save us. Believe me, you and I, Africa has all it takes to also save itself or herself. We have to put ourselves together as individuals, as youth, with a lot of understanding and push for more sustainable development. And until we have these measures put in place, then I do not think that the declaration and what the Beijing Declaration is fighting for, which is equity, gender equality, and all that, I'm not sure if it's really going to be established or is going to be evident. If we have the notion or the priorities of the Beijing Declaration, then we should always be aware that whatever action we are taking we have the most marginalized, which the female specifically. We have the most affected, the female gender being considered as the minority in this sense. We need to have that in mind. We need to push for more sustainable farming, climate financing that is equitable, not just advocating for climate financing. They just finished the COP29. Following up and to make sure that it is sustainable. And when it is time to actually make decisions and make policies as well, we have to ensure that women, that's the people that are hit by this impact, the people that are most affected, are seated on the table of decision making. And this is why we keep advocating for the inclusion of women in politics, inclusion of women in government. We alone know where it hurts the most. There is need for every individual to keep fighting for the actualization of sustainable development. The future of Africa's environment lies in the hands of us, in the hands of everybody. And together, I believe that we can actually work to heal the continent. The continent needs you and I. The continent needs our expertise. And from the continent, then we can take it to the whole world. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. If you have any question, please, the floor is open.
Agnes,